Today, I'm going to tell you something incredible about UC admissions. Many of you will find it hard to believe, but I'm going to show you the data and the evidence. My name is Chris Hamilton. For many years, I taught English literature at UCLA, and over the last 25 years, I've created and sold several college consulting and test prep companies. For the past decade, I've run Hamilton Education, where we've helped more than 227 students earn perfect scores on the SAT, ACT. As far as I know, more than any other company in the US. And my team has helped literally hundreds of students gain admission to Ivies, Stanford, and MIT, and thousands to top UCs. In 2020, the University of California quietly but profoundly changed their admissions practices. Almost overnight, the high schools with the highest achieving students that once had the highest acceptance rates suddenly had the worst acceptance rates to UC campuses. And the least prepared students suddenly had the best acceptance rates. It's like the UCs played an Uno reverse card. Before 2020, comprehensive review, the overall quality of applicants in multiple dimensions, was the greatest predictor of UC success. Today, it is primarily two factors: unweighted GPA and zip code. The UCs are now much less holistic than they were just a few years ago. I'm going to show you how they did it and try to explain why they did it. I'm even going to help you understand how to deal with these realities. But first, a little background. Decades ago, the University of California employed a points-based admission system. You earn points for volunteering, for hardships, for diversity, but most important were GPA and SAT, ACT scores. That system changed after Prop 209 passed in 1996, a voter proposition ending affirmative action in UC and Cal State admissions. But hoping to maintain and even improve diversity, in 2006, the UCs established comprehensive review, a holistic admission system. Grades and scores mattered, but so did personal circumstances and hardships. This period, from 2006 to 2019, was the golden age of UC admissions. UC campuses balanced equity and excellence. In 2019, 10 of the 15 most diverse public campuses in the US were UC or Cal State campuses. Every year, each campus would publish an admissions profile showing likelihood of acceptance for ranges of GPA, scores, and course rigor. Anyone could transparently see their chances and clearly see that just as with Ivies, no score or GPA guaranteed admissions to any UC campus. Students could also see that as applications increased, it got harder to get in. With this sort of transparent information, students could build a list of reach, target, and safety UCs. In 2018, my students had an 80% acceptance rate to UC Berkeley because I made sure they had good numbers, compelling stories. California students with great grades and impressive achievements might not be likely to get into Ivies back then, but they could count on finding a spot in the UCs. With this sort of holistic admissions system, I sometimes saw students with weaker SATs and APs gain admission to UC Berkeley. And why not? If they did the best they could, given the resources of their school, and they shared a story of parents losing their family business, becoming busboys in their cousin's family's Korean restaurant, why not give them a shot at Berkeley? That's holistic admission. From 2006 to 2019, UC admissions was probably the most fair and predictable in the entire United States. Roughly 40% of Harvard first years are legacies, donors, athletes, boarding school kids. But the UCs managed to balance equity and excellence, favoring high school performance and individual achievement. But in 2020, everything changed. In 2020, UC leadership spent millions promoting Prop 16, an effort to reintroduce ethnicity and race into admissions. They issued multiple public statements about the importance of using race in admissions. Simply put, the UCs, along with many American universities, believe that academic success must imply racial privilege. In 2020, the UCs also finally completed the 2-year study of the SAT-ACT. UC leadership got 2 unpleasant surprises that year. California voters nonetheless rejected the notion of using race in admissions. And the UC's 2-year study on the SAT-ACT actually concluded that the tests were better predictors than grades alone and were quite fair. The UC's own study recommended keeping the SAT-ACT. In 2020, the UC Senate faculty voted 51-0 to keep using the test in admissions. But in a 2020 meeting, the UC regents, heavily nudged by UC leadership, voted 21-0 to go test optional. And just a bit later, the UCs adopted a test-blind policy. Currently, the UCs do not consider the SAT or ACT in any way for college admissions. Among top-tier national universities, the UCs are the only test-blind university. Abandoning the SAT-ACT allowed the UCs to quietly re-engineer their entire admission system. The UCs kept the personal insight questions and the small army of poorly paid part-time admissions readers. They kept the language of comprehensive review, but the UCs changed almost everything else about UC admissions. In 2016, a San Diego blue ribbon high school called Westview had a 44% acceptance rate to UC Berkeley. In 2021, it dropped to 6.7%, about 1/6 of what it used to be. Here's some UC San Diego admissions statistics for 6 San Diego high schools from 2018. I'm drawing them directly from the UC database. Notice that the top 2 high schools are still above the state averages. They're not disadvantaged in admissions, but one of these schools has a 40% absentee rate, and another has a no homework and equitable grading policy. It's almost impossible to get a B in these schools. The other 4 high schools on this list, 3 public and 1 private, are brutally competitive and very high achieving. They are mostly, or at least significantly, non-white, but they're also heavily Asian American. Here are the same statistics for these schools for 2023. Just a few years later, the high-performing high schools did not drop just a little. They have 1/5 the acceptance rates they once had. I've heard high school counselors say the UCs just got more competitive. Not for everyone. For many high schools, it got much easier to get into the UCs. 2 of these high schools literally doubled their acceptance rates. The San Francisco Chronicle, behind a paywall, of course, offers beautiful and damning graphical information about UC admissions. And if you recall your high school math classes, in UC San Diego's data, you see what's called a bimodal distribution. Quite literally, there are 2 standards for admission at UC San Diego, one for high-performing high schools and one for lower. Without telling anyone, the UCs switched from comprehensive review to a system that favors one objective metric, GPA, and a slew of identity-based metrics. If you don't believe me, compare the older UC admissions profile with the new one. Here's the old one for UCLA. Want to increase your chances of UCLA tenfold? Take harder classes. In the summer, work on your reading, probably by reading, or maybe review algebra and geometry. Here's the new UCLA admissions profile. Notice the categories. They are exactly the identity-based elements the UCs are legally required to ignore, according to state and federal law. You can work all summer, but I'm not sure how you can improve your ethnicity, your gender, or your geography. The San Francisco Chronicle shows us the San Diego high schools with the highest acceptance rates to UC San Diego. These are also the lowest performing schools based on typical measures of performance, AP scores, academic performance index, etc. But with one exception, these schools have the lowest percentage of overrepresented Asian Americans. And most have progressive grading policies, like equitable grading or no homework. These high schools have the fewest Asian American students, but almost everyone gets A's. Here is last place, the lowest acceptance rates. Just a few years ago, these high schools had the highest acceptance rates to UC San Diego. They draw largely immigrant families who stretch themselves to buy a house or rent an apartment in these school districts because they are the most rigorous. But in 2020, the UCs played that Uno reverse card. These students now have the worst chances at the UCs. It's not just San Diego. This pattern appears across the state, from Los Angeles to the Bay Area, and with nearly every UC campus. The UCs are using geography and zip code as proxies for the identity-based factors they've long preached they should be using. But because they are forbidden from using them directly, they're simply using them indirectly. In one sense, the consequences of using identity and geography as central elements in admission have been drastic and obvious. A recent report shared that UC San Diego used to have a dozen, maybe 24 students out of 40,000 undergraduates who were deeply unprepared for college math. Now UC San Diego has more than 4,000 students, about 1 in 12, who test at 5th grade math levels. That report also revealed very quietly that UC San Diego had instituted a 25% minimum quota for high schools containing lots of underrepresented students. Make no mistake, the small army of part-time outside readers are still evaluating UC applicants as they always did. It's safe to say that most applications are skimmed rather than truly read, and are then assigned a 1 to 5 number. 1s are a definitely admit, and 5s are a do not admit. But the key is what happens after these readers' evaluations. That is an opaque black box process undertaken by a small star chamber of UC admissions people. Today, after students meet certain criteria, mostly GPA, the UC results are highly random. GPA and geography are the strongest predictors of success. But many admissions professionals believe that focusing on traditional notions of merit is wrong-headed. The influential book, The Tyranny of Merit, captures this sentiment, as does a glowing review on the back. This philosopher asks exactly why anyone should be rewarded for having the sheer luck to be intelligent or able to work hard. If you believe that hard work is actually sheer luck, why would you reward hard work? But another thing is that TestBlind actually improved the US News rankings of the UCs. Those rankings depend heavily upon selectivity, how many are rejected, and yield, how many of those accepted actually attend, because TestBlind meant an additional 40,000 applicants to UCLA, and thus another 40,000 rejections. More selectivity. And yield improves when you accept lots of students who don't have better offers. The traditional measures of merit and college rankings have actually rewarded the UCs for these problematic policies. This year, my students had a very good cycle in admissions. Lots of Harvards, Stanfords, Caltechs, and UC Berkeley's. My estimate is that about 30% of the Harvard acceptances in this part of Southern California were from my students. And our Berkeley numbers this year were great. But the UCs have created a system that is still frustratingly unpredictable. I see students accepted to Ivies now, but rejected by San Diego State. To parents and students, that arbitrariness and randomness is nerve-wracking, a bug in the system. It also means that they have to apply to and pay for many more applications to many more universities. But for UC admissions, it's a feature. If you want equity, evenness, and outcomes, especially thinking about race, ethnicity, randomness is good. Again, you might be wondering, why hasn't my high school counselor told me about all of these changes? Probably because the UCs have kept all of this highly secret. Talking about these things is difficult, but these changes in UC admissions demand the sunlight of scrutiny. Feel free to get in touch if you think I've gotten something wrong, Or perhaps, if you've long suspected these UC trends were happening, but didn't have the data and research to fully understand them, get in touch with me to discuss what you can do to give your students the best chance at great American universities and a great education. Thank you.